Hello, people of Earth and listeners of the Secrets of a Witch podcast with me, Sabrina Scott. Thank you so much for being here, for listening to all of my wild and crazy ideas. Thank you for giving me 5-star ratings and happy reviews and sharing with your friends. It means the absolute world to me. I did not know how this was going to go when I impulsively launched this in the February full moon, so I'm just so stoked. And Awaz says she's also stoked. My co-host Awaz, in case you don't know, she is like a tortoise shell, short hair. She is my oldest baby, and she is probably like 13 or 14 by now. Anyway, she says hi. What else did I want to say? So the disclaimer situation is, do check out my website, sabrinamscott.com. You can book a tarot reading or peep my self-study affirmation series or little workshops or mini courses or anything like that to dive in and learn some magical skills, energy skills, affirmations to improve your life, stuff like that. If there is a workshop or something bite-sized that you would like me to offer, please don't be a stranger. I am here to serve you and help you create your dream life and heal from the things. That is what motivates me and what drives me to make this podcast, to teach, to exist, to do all the things. So reach out. You can say hi on Instagram at Sabrina M. Scott, or you can pop me an email at ceo@sabrinamscott.com. It is me that answers those, so don't be a stranger, okay? Okay. So anyway, now that's out of the way, we can get into today's topic, which is maybe, I don't know how you guys are going to take this, but I'm getting a little bit more comfortable talking publicly about my ideas on feminine and masculine energy after I've kind of built my career in having a very gender neutral, gender fluid way of talking about these things. I do still stand by that. I do still think it's powerful and important to talk about energy in gender neutral ways sometimes. But in this episode and in some of the other episodes where I am explicitly naming energy as gendered, I am doing it because it's a little bit of an advanced understanding of energy, because I think it is, it's just so relevant to today's times, I think. And if you don't feel like this is relevant for you, that's okay. Maybe hop on over to a different episode, or if you want to listen just for funsies, I of course 100% support that. But today we're going to talk about this in my own framework with the situations that I think I found myself in. I think many of us have found ourselves in over time. That's my disclaimer. So, feminine energy and interpersonal vibes, feminine energy and abuse, feminine energy and safety. So let's talk about this. And one thing I want to make very clear is I don't blame any victims of abuse in any way for what they've experienced. I'm a survivor myself. I've been a victim of various things. And because I've survived these things, because I've been a victim of these things, because I've healed from these things to the point where it honestly doesn't really affect my life that much, I want to make sure that I can teach and help other people come to some of the same understandings and realizations that I have had, and work with some of this as learning lessons so y'all can up-level and have different life experiences. So if you guys have been listening to this podcast sequentially, you will know that I used to identify as non-binary. I used to be a lot more masculine in my energy and a lot more assertive in my dating life. And maybe since 2017-ish, I've been way more intentionally moving towards an embodiment of feminine energy. And I now identify as female and as a woman, which is very exciting. I've had some surgeries that are gender affirming, and I just feel so great about that. And one of the best things I've ever done has been to go on this feminine energy journey and really embrace what feminine energy is and the embodiment of the divine feminine. And so I do want to make a giant course about this. So I don't even know like when I'll be able to stop talking about this because it's so important. There's so much to say. And honestly, I'm even still learning. I'm still perfecting this stuff myself. But I do find it useful to talk about this stuff that I'm learning through and working through. But I will say that diving into feminine energy and starting to embody that more, that trust, that acceptance, that honestly, it's like a personal satisfaction with yourself where you just kind of vibrate on this level and you know that not everything is for you, not everyone is for you, and that's okay. And you're going to release control. I would say feminine energy, it has some similarities to the Empress card in the tarot as well as the Hanged Man card in the tarot, right? There is a surrender to feminine energy. There is a leaning back to feminine energy. There's an acceptance to feminine energy. And this is going to sound controversial, but I actually do feel like embracing feminine energy in this way, especially for women who date men, can be really protective against manipulation and against abuse, to be honest with you. So let me explain this a little bit. So if you listen to one of my recent episodes on manipulation and some of the like warning signs and behaviors that I've observed with people who are manipulative, and manipulation, I think, is like the first step to abuse. And again, I'm like not a therapist or a psychologist or anything. I've like no credentials in that way, but I am just sharing from my own experience and what I've learned along the way, the books I've read, and just like life, you know? So take what I have to say with that in mind. But what's so interesting about that dynamic of like someone who is manipulative or someone who is starting to be abusive is it's actually impossible for a feminine energy woman to stay in her feminine energy in a situation that is abusive. So when I realized this pretty recently, and it like blew my mind because it just shows to me that this feminine energy thing is so protective. Right? So one big red flag I noticed with that manipulative person who inspired that episode I recorded for you guys recently was once it's kind of switched from like the love bombing stage to the like explicit manipulation devaluing stage. And this was only like literally a week and a half long, 2-week situation. So it was so fast, so interesting. Like I noticed that my body and my energy switched from this like easy, chill, relaxed, trusting, embodied, soft, feminine energy to feeling tense and unsafe. I started to feel like this person wanted to put me into my masculine energy. This person wanted me to do ABC to like prove that I was like worthy of all of the nice things, and was trying to kind of like put me on the defensive, put me on the offensive, you know, get me out of that feminine energy space, which is very much about receiving and just being very chill and like mellow and focusing on self-care, focusing on flow, focusing on allowing and receiving rather than making things happen and spurring something forward. And so I do think that part of the reason why I was able to notice so quickly, like, oh, this doesn't feel good, is because I am connected now to that feminine energy in a dating context, that divine feminine goddess energy where you do just kind of relax into your feminine and let things be done for you. You don't plan anything. You don't pick up a finger to really do anything, especially in the early stages of dating. It's very much about old school courtship. Like old school, kind, generous, sweet courtship, like chivalry, like that type of shit. And I know that might sound a bit weird, but there is something really beautiful about that masculine and feminine polarity. And I talk about that more in depth in a previous episode on this podcast. I forget which number it is. Maybe 27, something like that, about the beauty of masculine and feminine polarity and how healthy masculine energy actually creates space for healthy feminine energy to just like unfurl, be cozy, feel safe, feel at ease, and feel very trusting. So what I started to notice with this individual was my energy switched from at ease, trusting, to tense, to disrespected, which didn't make me feel good, from feeling chill and at ease and trusting, to then feeling like I was being examined and torn apart and criticized and all of this stuff. And this all happened in a very, very subtle, low-key way. Like, I'm sure an observer outside... Actually, you know what? That's not true. I sent some screen caps to a friend and she was like, yikes on bikes. So outsiders who are removed from it can see how clearly fucking crazy some of this shit is. But when you're in it, it feels so insidious, I feel, unless you are connected to that divine feminine energy where you know that in dating, your natural state should be ease, flow, comfort, trust, relaxation, play, femininity. It should not be tense, doing, proving, persuading. And with this person's manipulations, like, they were kind of trying to set me up, because I think they thought they got me like hooked because of all the nice things they were doing for me. So I think they thought that I was hooked so that they could like switch tactics to be like, okay, now it's your turn to prove yourself. Now it's your turn to like do stuff for me. Now it's your turn to like prove why you're worthy of all of this. And so what that then would have done, if I had taken the bait, would have put me into the masculine role and them into the feminine role, where they get to lean back and just enjoy. And then I would be performing for their approval, which is not really how a healthy dynamic works. And in my opinion, that isn't how most like healthy masculine feminine energy dynamics work. Again, I do know there's some women who are happiest to be in their masculine, and some men who are happy to be in their feminine, and that dynamic works for them. Okay, cool. But the point is that there's a polarity there that both people are consenting to, and it's beautiful and healthy. But what I'm talking about right now is not that. It's like this manipulated kind of situation which forces the soft feminine energy into a masculine proving, persuading space, and none of it is healthy, right? And so I do, again, feel like why I'm talking about this is because I feel that connection to feminine energy, the softness, the trust, the play, the ease, the flow, the acceptance, the being, not doing. Being. Feminine energy is all about being. Look at the Empress Tarot card. She is just being. She's not doing anything. Being. Softness. When we feel thrown off of that softness, when we feel thrown off of that being, and then when we feel like pushed into this space of doing prematurely, and when we're told to do it by someone we literally don't know, that is a big flashing light. Even if we don't pick up on all the manipulation tactics, even if we're kind of like a bit oblivious to some of those like sneaky abuse tactics, if we're connected to our divine feminine, then that will give us this flashing red warning light that something is off, because that feminine is no longer in flow. Does that make sense, my friends? I hope it does. Because in a healthy masculine feminine polarity dynamic, that feminine energy is free to just like unfurl, bloom. She is at ease. She is trusting, and she has reason to trust. She is chill. She is smiling. She is happy. She is vulnerable. With a man that has earned that vulnerability. I think that's part of the key point. And yet, when in our body, we move from that embodied feminine sweetness, softness, ease, flow, into a space of clenching, of fear, of feeling alone, feeling defensive, feeling, asked to perform to prove that we're good enough, that is not our natural feminine energy state. That actually shows that there is something unhealthy going on with the other person. And that is part of why I think this feminine energy stuff is so powerful and so beautiful and actually protective. You know what I mean? Because it is so easy to then, go into your masculine energy and be like, okay, yeah, I can totally prove it to you. What do you want me to do for you? Do you want me to I don't even know. I don't want to make a list because it's not the point of the list. It's not what I'm talking about. Whatever that list happens to be, I think putting the feminine into that space of doing in a romantic partnership in order to prove to somebody something, that's not even a healthy expression of masculinity. So it's not really about proving. Masculine doing should be coming from the core. It should not be about persuading or having strings attached to it. It should just be giving. And this is going to sound maybe a bit odd, but like, come with me here on this journey. Like, mothering energy is a form of masculine energy. Mothering, let's say a healthy mother taking care of her kids and being like really assertive and making sure those kids are safe and cared for and protected and fed and clothed and all of that, that is a very healthy masculine energy. That mother is not doing that in an ideal world. We all know there's like wacky mothers out there, but that healthy mother is not doing that masculine mothering energy in order to like get something from the kids. It's like fully just because that's what she wants to do, that's what she needs to do, that's what she signed up for, and she's enjoying that process because that's what it is. That's what healthy masculine energy is about. In an abusive or manipulative or unhealthy dynamic, that is not what's going on, obviously, from either direction, from that original direction of the manipulator, or if they have basically got their claws on a victim and are trying to manipulate them into doing a ABC thing, into a space of doing and serving. And it's just like a weird vibe. So you might be like weirded out by this discussion of embodiment of the divine feminine, but I do think it's so powerful. It has drastically changed my life and how I live it. It's drastically changed how I date. It's drastically changed like everything, and it's made my life so much better. And I do find it to be this internal, alchemical, magical thing. And I think it's worthy of discussion and worthy of your time, worthy of your thought. And maybe it doesn't resonate, and like, that's okay. And yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. If you're listening to this and you're non-binary or gender fluid, like, I still think it's like something that's interesting to play with and like reflect on and see like, where do you want to be? Like, has being too much in your masculine gotten you into trouble before? Like, think about it. I think it's worth thinking about and just reflecting on, and maybe it hasn't, and that's cool. But anything that gives us an opportunity to think and reflect and grow and see what are the lessons here, what can I learn, what can I do differently, like, to me, that is worthwhile of our time. All right, friends, that is the episode for today. Much love. Again, you can say hi at Sabrina M. Scott on the Instagram. My email is ceo@sabrinamscott.com. Do check out my website, sabrinamscott.com. I have so many things, clothing, what else? Courses, and if there's anything that you don't see on there that you want to see, holla, and I'll see what I can do to make that happen. All right, beautiful people, have a good day, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is. Bye.